Operation Ice Veil. The Arctic wind screamed across the barren expanse of white, a relentless howl that seemed to pierce even the most fortified layers of thermal gear. Beneath the ice, however, something stirred, something man was never supposed to find. Captain Elias Monroe stood on the deck of the nuclear-powered submarine USS Trident, staring into the frozen horizon. He was a seasoned operative, a shadow in the intelligence world. His orders were clear: infiltrate the old Soviet research base under the ice shelf of Novaya Zemlya and retrieve the contents of a vault buried beneath the abandoned facility. They called it Operation Ice Veil. The mission briefing was vague. Satellite images had picked up signs of activity, heat signatures where there should be none. And then came the intercept. A garbled Russian transmission that mentioned Project Kolokol, the bell. That word alone had triggered alarms back at Langley. Rumors of a Cold War experiment involving time manipulation had long been dismissed as fringe science. But now, there was proof something had been reactivated. Monroe wasn't going in alone. His team consisted of 4 elite specialists. Sergeant Ava Rourke, demolitions and engineering. A quiet woman with eyes like flint. Dr. Victor Hahn, physicist and cryptologist, recruited from MIT for his work on quantum anomalies. Lieutenant Kai Navarro, infiltration expert, master of silent movement. Gunnar Eriksson, ex-Norwegian Special Forces, their Arctic survival guide and sniper. They were dropped onto the ice via halo jump from a stealth aircraft. The Trident served as the exfil point, submerged under the ice sheet 5 kilometers south. The march to the base took 36 hours. Temperatures plummeted to -40 degrees Celsius, and wind speeds threatened to push them off course. But Monroe's team was trained for this. They reached the blackened husk of the Soviet outpost just after midnight. It was a skeleton of rusted steel and concrete. The entrance was buried under layers of snow. Ava deployed a thermal lance to melt through the access doors, revealing a stairwell that descended into shadow. As they entered, the steel groaned, the sound reverberating like a warning. The deeper they went, the warmer it became, unnaturally warm. Hahn's instruments picked up electromagnetic surges, pulses that shouldn't exist in such a dead facility. They found the first bodies in the mess hall. Skeletons in Soviet uniforms, teeth clenched in silent screams, some collapsed mid-run. The walls were covered in strange symbols, spirals, loops, fractals. These weren't just soldiers, Hahn muttered, running a gloved hand over a mural. They were trying to encode something, a message or a warning. Past the crew quarters, they located the vault. It was sealed with a complex system, mechanical, not digital. Rourke worked the tumblers like a pianist playing a requiem. The door creaked open. Inside, they found a chamber lit by a dim blue glow. At its center was the bell, a massive metallic structure, suspended by cables. Runes were etched across its surface, some Slavic, some indecipherable. Hahn stepped forward, scanning with his tablet. This thing is active. It's producing a field, something outside our known spectrum. Navarro approached a control panel and flipped a switch. The room thrummed with energy. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A low hum filled the air. The floor trembled. Then came the vision. For a split second, every member of the team saw flashes, cities burning, oceans boiling, a silhouette standing in the heart of a storm, arms outstretched, laughing. When the tremor stopped, Hahn was on his knees. "It's not just a machine," he gasped. "It's a key, a temporal key. They built it to access alternate timelines." Before Monroe could respond, Navarro raised his rifle. Movement. 6 o'clock. They turned to see figures entering the chamber, men in modern Russian combat gear. Their insignias bore no national flag. Black masks, red visors. Their Spetsnaz Zeta, Eriksson hissed. Ghost unit. Off the books. Gunfire erupted. The tight space turned into a death trap. Rourke deployed a flashbang. Eriksson picked off targets with clinical precision. Monroe dragged Hahn behind cover as bullets sparked off the bell. One Russian trooper dove at the console, shouting in Russian, "We go back. We rewrite it all." He slammed his hand onto the controls. The bell screamed. A pulse exploded outward, blinding white. Silence. Monroe awoke in snow. Alone. He was outside the base, but it was different. The sky was red. The stars were wrong. The sun was larger, hung lower on the horizon. The facility behind him was new, Pristine, flying a flag he'd never seen, a white serpent coiled around a black hourglass. Then he heard boots. Figures emerged. Soldiers in black armor, speaking in a language he couldn't place. One held up a device. A hologram of Monroe appeared, his face marked, temporal fugitive. He ran. Over the next 48 hours, Monroe survived a hellscape of twisted creatures, alternate Earths fused together by temporal rifts. The bell had broken the timeline, and now fragments of multiple realities overlapped. He eventually found Rourke, barely alive, hiding in a fissure near the old exfil point. Hahn and Navarro were gone. Erickson had vanished entirely. Rourke whispered, "They're building more bells in every timeline. Someone is trying to control the multiverse." Monroe didn't speak. He simply looked at the horizon, where the strange new moon pulsed like an eye. Their only chance was to return to the bell, find the original timeline, reset the breach. They moved in silence, no longer just soldiers. Now, they were time's last sentinels.